Good morning, Whitney. It is so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks. So good to be here.
Yes, girlfriends, we're going to be talking about something really important today. There's so many times with our health and wellness that we're like, oh, it's just my age. I just have to accept this. This is just the way it is. I had kids. I've gone through menopause, blah, blah, blah. And, and we think that there's no hope. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit of hope and some of the mistakes that we are making with our pelvic floor and some of the misconceptions and thoughts that we're having that it can't be fixed. What if it could be? What if there was some hope? And Whitney, that is what you're going to be talking about. You are a physical therapist, a board certified women's clinical specialist with over 15 years supporting women through peri and postmenopause. And I love this. You talk about how women are suffering in silence with leaks, pelvic pain, or intimacy discomfort, and getting dismissed and handed over as a one stop that do Kegels or whatever that might look like, and not really getting really the answers, the support, and all that. So tell us a little bit about you and where you're coming from today.
Yeah. So I've been a pelvic floor PT for over 15 years, and it's been awesome. I mean, now there's more awareness, I'd say, around pelvic floor, especially pelvic floor PT. Over a decade ago, nobody was talking
Oh,
about this
oh.
stuff, but I was treating it. There were still plenty of women seeking it out. But now I think there's just more awareness of this. And one thing I've always preached is the symptoms that so many women have, like some of the things you described, the leaking, the pain with intimacy, pelvic organ prolapse, those are very common symptoms, but they're not normal. And so our culture has normalized all this stuff, right? And so
Yes.
a lot of women, especially as they get older, they're just like, oh yeah, I pee my pants a little bit every time that I cough, laugh, or sneeze, or I haven't jumped on a trampoline since before I had kids because, well, I'm gonna leak a little bit if I do that. And so we've just normalized all these symptoms and just kind of thought, well, this is just how it is now, and I just have to live with it. But
Yeah.
there's so much more. There's so much we can do for it.
Oh, and that just gives me a sense of relief and hope. And so many women have one or many of those symptoms and what that might look like. So, a little disclaimer, girls, of course, always check with your medical staff on all these things. But let's just give some just real life, like, what are we doing? What are we maybe doing wrong? What are some what ifs, and maybe some little steps that we can go? And the ladies, if you would like to follow along, Whitney is featured in the Being Brave Tour magazine. And this is her little reflection. It's called, Are You Making These Five Pelvic Floor Mistakes Without Realizing It? And she has five steps that you can just follow along and read. So we'll, of course, be talking about it right here on the podcast, but you can also get the magazine with our direct download and follow along. So let's talk about some of these mistakes that women are making and what are some what they can do instead.
Yeah. So the first one is doing Kegels incorrectly or even just doing them at all. And so over a decade ago, that was always the messaging. Like, oh, just do your Kegels. That's going to help everything. It's going to help if you have pain. It's going to help if you're peeing your pants. It's going to help if your organs are falling out. Just do your Kegels. And that is not the right messaging. So, in some instances, Kegels can be helpful, but actually, a lot of women have too much tension in their muscles. So, yeah, it's very surprising for most of my patients that I work with. And there have been plenty over the years where they've had urinary incontinence and they have really tight pelvic floors. And once we soften their pelvic floor, they didn't even have to do Kegels. All their leaking went away. And so it's huge to understand exactly what's going on. And then that can tell us what we need to do to fix it.
Okay, let's say that again because that is so important because we hear all these messaging. I even heard it on a movie the other night. Oh, she just needs to do her Kegels. And I started laughing because I knew this interview was coming up. But to understand what is going on, and you need to have somebody who's educated in
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, this isn't most people's specialty.
that.
Most of us don't really understand what's even down there. So it's really important to get an idea of what's actually going on. So what I normally have people start with is doing some of the pelvic floor relaxation. And so a lot of times the pelvic floor muscles, they're trickier muscles because we can't see them. We
Right.
don't have the greatest awareness. It's not like a bicep curl where we can feel it, we can see it. So it's like this group of muscles that we don't really understand. So a lot of times I'll have people start with imagery. And my top three imagery or visualizations that I have people do for pelvic floor relaxation would be the first one is imagine your vagina is like a flower that hasn't bloomed. And you can think about taking a big deep breath in and blooming the flower. So for some people, that's a nice one. They really just visualize that flower opening, flower blooming. Another one is to think about your sit bones. So the bony parts of your butt, think
Mhm.
about your sit bones just kind of spreading apart. So that can also help with relaxing the pelvic floor. And then I'd say my favorite one, and we'll talk about Kegels too. So sometimes it helps to do them together. But my favorite one for relaxation is imagining a marble and you're just dropping the marble down and out.
Mm.
So those are the three that I have people start with.
Okay, as you're doing this, the imagery is going in my head. You know what I noticed when you were talking about that? My breathing got softer.
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt like my breathing opened up.
Yep. And our breath is intimately connected with our pelvic floor. Every breath we take, our diaphragm and our pelvic floor work together, kind of like a piston. So every time we inhale, our diaphragm moves down and our pelvic floor relaxes and move down. Every time we exhale, the diaphragm moves up and pelvic floor moves up with it.
Oh,
So we can actually use our
interesting.
breath to our advantage.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so our mistake number two is when women hold unconscious tension in their pelvic floor, glutes, and inner thighs, especially when stressed or bracing against leaks. Oh my goodness. How many? I see all the little I relate paddles going up, going, yeah, I relate to that one.
Oh, yeah. We're tensing all the time.
Yes.
And that's another one that so many of my patients don't realize
Uh-huh.
until I bring their awareness to it. And especially after I do a lot of manual work. So I'm releasing a lot of muscles and doing body work.
Okay.
And once they feel where the muscles are supposed to be in that nice, relaxed position, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how tight I was until it was all released.
Interesting.
So, one of the big things that I have people do, so we need to learn how to release instead of clenching all the time.
Yeah.
And then doing check-ins throughout the day is huge because we get into these holding patterns. And so most women are carrying stress in some way. A lot of people think about it with their jaws, they're clenching all the time, their
Yeah.
shoulders are really high. I lived in Southern California for some time, and everyone's trained to just like suck in that abdomen 24/7, 365, because you're always got to be beach ready. But so many people are just like squeezing everywhere, and they're not noticing they're doing it. So checking in every 2, 3 hours to just notice, okay, where am I holding tension? Is it in my jaw? Can I just relax my jaw down? Can I rest my shoulders down? Take a big deep breath. Let that belly go. We don't need to be sucking
Oh.
it in all the time. Rest those glutes. A lot of moms are, or a lot of women are just holding a lot of tension in their glutes. And then
Mm.
bloom that flower or drop that marble, relax that pelvic floor too. So doing that repetition throughout the day can really help to retrain these muscles.
Oh, that's great. We should have a little reminder on our girls page and celebrating women. Okay, girls, time to relax and just have that moment of relaxation. And it's so funny because I was had a an appointment yesterday with a procedure, and she kept going, "No, relax your shoulder," because my shoulders were up like this. She goes, "No, I really mean it. Relax your shoulder." And she literally had to keep pushing my shoulder down because it was so I was so used to being in this tension mode. And I'm like, oh, and I really didn't even realize it that I was like all
Yeah.
tense and, you know.
I wish we could have like little buzzers on us that as soon as we'd start to get into tension, you're like, "Zzz, oh, rest that back down."
Relax. Yeah. And I know for myself too, I feel it so much in my jaw and just like, that's why I just kind of like, okay, relax, relax, you know,
No.
we almost feel like, think sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to be like, you know, like you said, beach ready, everything all tight and, right in tone or whatever. And that if you release that, it's like, oh no, somebody will see my belly,
Uh-huh.
we've trained ourselves, but girls, some of those things, as Whitney is saying, might just need to relax just for a moment as we go. So, mistake number three, holding your breath during daily activities and why it's a problem.
Yeah, so breath holding is another big thing that women do without ever realizing we're doing it. And it's not good because this actually increases your abdominal pressure, and so it pushes everything down. So it can lead to more issues with prolapse. So when the organs are starting to fall or descend, it can weaken the pelvic floor. And so our breath is super important. It's really the foundation to everything with so many systems in our body. But breath holding is a big problem. So, what I normally teach women to do is to exhale on the exertion. So, if you're lifting something, you're going to exhale while you lift, inhale while you relax. And I know a lot of people have a hard time coordinating some of the breathing when we're trying to coordinate it with movement or exertion. Because
Uh-huh.
when we do teach Kegels, a lot of times we will try to use our breath to our advantage and remember the diaphragm moves up when we exhale because that's pushing the air out of our lungs, and our pelvic floor squeezes and moves up with it. And so, but a lot of people think exhale, relax. And so we actually, if we're intending to coordinate our breath work for exercise or exertion, a lot of times it's a little different method than what we think of when we're just trying to relax. So exhale on exertion, that's when we're going to get that best contraction and coordination of our core and our pelvic floor.
Okay, I think I was doing it opposite.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I do a workout class every Monday. We're lifting weights. And, I had done some weightlifting a long time ago, just, in the gym or whatever. But I don't know that I would ever really coordinated my breath with it. And I had heard that before, but honestly think I was doing it backwards.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah. So that's a good one to keep in mind. I love all these little nuggets so we can just, have these little pieces to remember. So let's was there anything else on that one or should we move to the next one?
That's the big one. And just
That's the
thinking
big
about
one.
it through your daily activities, right? So if you're lifting a grocery bag, if you're pushing a heavy door, if you're going from sitting to standing. So just thinking about how you can incorporate that throughout your day.
Fabulous. So number four, ignoring posture and alignment and why it's a problem.
Yep.
Yep.
So another key like foundation to our core and pelvic floor health is our posture and alignment. So if we're always slouched, so think about the trunk like a tube of toothpaste and the pelvic floor is the cap. And so that the trunk, if there's going to be some sort of squeeze or pressure in that tube of toothpaste, that's going to push the toothpaste down, which could be our organs or pee. And so if you think about a slouched posture, if we're rolling that tube of toothpaste down, that's what
Oh,
we do when we get to the end of the toothpaste, right? And we're trying to like get that last little bit out. If we're always rolling that tube of toothpaste, we're pushing our organs down constantly. And
oh,
again, it increases that pressure down on the pelvic floor, which will make them weaker. So all of that pressure down can be really detrimental. The other posture that can happen though is the opposite, where then some people are focused so much on their posture that they overdo it and they get into like a military posture where they're super arched in their back. You could have like a sway back, and that can also weaken your core and your pelvic floor because then your ribs, the bottom of the ribs, they're tipped back. So they're lengthening all of those abdominal muscles,
Mm,
which totally changes the direction your diaphragm's going. So now your diaphragm, instead of going up and down, is pushing forward and down. It's lengthening those abdominal muscles, which will actually make them weaker. So we have more pressure forward against weaker muscles, which can give us more of a belly pooch from standing in that big arch. So it's another one. We want ribs stacked right over our pelvis and pretty much straight up and down. If you think of our ribs like a bucket of water, we don't want that water tipping out the back. We also don't want it tipping out the front. So we want that nice stacked position, and that's where all of our muscles are in a good optimal position, and we're managing our abdominal pressure well.
yeah, I think I go back and forth between the two of those, the
Uh-huh.
both postures. So, and I've been noticing ever since we popped on. So, ladies, we are recording this for the podcast, but we're also it's a video as well. I've been watching Whitney and how what beautiful posture she has. Her, and it is you're just in line, and I love that analogy of the toothpaste tube. I can relate to that. It's like, oh yeah, well if you're squeezing, so squeeze everything down. So
Yep.
or put it out of alignment. Oh, that even will might hurt your back if you do that. So yeah, so fabulous. And so the next one, our fifth one, is thinking leaks and pain are just part of aging. Oh my gosh, how many women are we're I even heard that the other day. Oh, no, it's just part. I'm just old. I'm just getting older.
Yep.
I've gone through
Yeah.
menopause. I've had kids. This is just the way it is. And I thought, what if it wasn't? What if we had other options?
Yeah, so that's where just knowing what symptoms are common,
Mhm.
which doesn't mean that they're normal. So we need to just improve that awareness and education around all these different symptoms that can happen. It doesn't mean you're going to get every symptom as you age. Some people get none. Some people get a bunch of them, but recognizing them when they're starting, but also knowing it's never too late. So the oldest patient that I have ever worked with, she was 94
Oh,
and she
wow.
had urinary incontinence and we fixed it. And so it's never too late to seek help. But we need to know if women are just told, "Oh yeah, that's just part of aging. You just got to live with it," then they don't even know that they can seek help. And a
Right.
lot of times we have to advocate for ourselves for that too. A really sad statistic is that the number one reason for elderly women to be put in a nursing home is urinary incontinence, which is preventable and treatable. So we just
Yeah.
need to know that we have resources out there, and I know people are from all over. Some people don't have in-person resources near them, but we also have lots of resources online as well. And so knowing that we don't have to live with these things, that there are steps that we can do to improve it.
So, Whitney, I know even with a lot of our doctors are not educated in this field.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, to advocate for yourself, to keep asking questions, to keep seeking. And that's what I love about bringing this topic to the table is that we can talk about it and see what else is possible. What are our choices, ladies? We have some choices now that we can advocate for ourselves and keep asking questions until we find the right people who know the answers.
Yep, absolutely.
Educate yourself. And I love this. So, what is your hope? Would you like to leave the ladies with?
Yes. Well, so my big hope is to talk about this more,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to just be something we live with in silence and that we're too embarrassed or feel ashamed about having any of these symptoms. Like, let's start talking about it. And then the thing is once women start to talk, then a lot of times someone's just like, "Oh yeah, I had that too, but this is what I did. This is what I went to help with my symptoms. When we start talking about it, that's when we learn more about it and what our options are. The other big thing is, like I've mentioned multiple times, is we don't have to live with these symptoms. So I really encourage people to start to address them. So a lot of times as women, we put everyone else first, but we need to take care of ourselves too.
We do. And I have a personal story around this too. So I have always had frequency and I thought, gosh. And so I met a woman here in the area that I live in the greater Seattle area. And I met her at a networking and she's like you. She's a doctor, a PT. And this is also her, her specialty. Excuse me. And I went and saw her. And it made a world of difference. And I thought, that was so easy.
Yep.
It was
So
so
many times it's
easy to
very
do.
easy things, and
Yeah,
we just need to tweak a few things, even just like our daily habits that can be giving us symptoms that we didn't even know because we're not taught this stuff.
right. And it hasn't been the norm to talk about. But you know how girls, if we can start talking, we can get oh yeah, this worked, or I found this information. So that's what I love about bringing this to the magazine. And you have another article with some resources and around intimacy that we'll bring to the table too. So ladies, in the meantime, go ahead and download the magazine. Connect with Whitney if you have any questions. That's what we're here for. Well, you're not alone. You can ask and reach out and be happy to connect. So, Whitney, what a joy to have you here with us today. And thank you for giving us some tips and some. I'm going to be making sure that I'm breathing and sitting up straight. I'll be thinking about that tube of toothpaste and the flour and all these beautiful tips that you've given us. So, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All righty, girls, we'll see you next time.